That calm bay you're envisioning, with its glassy water mirroring a fortress of green, is not just a pretty picture. It is a colossal, multi-trillion-dollar engine of life and economic stability, operating under a perfect peace. The first layer of deception is in the water itself. That clear, placid surface is a masterpiece of filtration and chemistry, managed entirely by the lush greenery we see. Those are not just trees. They are most likely mangroves, salt-tolerant powerhouses with roots like complex subway systems. Scientifically, a single square kilometer of healthy mangrove forest can sequester up to 1,000 tons of carbon dioxide, locking it away in its unique, waterlogged soil for millennia, making it up to 5 times more effective at carbon capture than a similar area of tropical rainforest. But that's just the carbon account. Let's talk real estate and insurance. That root network, dense and tangled, is a living, growing coastal defense wall. Data from the World Bank shows that mangroves reduce wave height by over 66% during storms, preventing an estimated $65 billion in annual property damage globally. They are the reason coastal communities from Vietnam to Florida still exist after major cyclones and hurricanes. The bay's calm is not an accident. It is a service provided by the greenery, dissipating the energy of incoming waves before they can erode the shoreline or smash into human settlements. Now let's dive beneath that mirrored surface. The calm water is a nursery. It is estimated that over 75% of all commercially caught fish species in the tropics spend at least part of their life cycle in mangrove estuaries and associated seagrass beds. The fallen leaves from the mangroves decompose into a rich detritus, feeding bacteria and plankton, which in turn feed small fish, which feed larger fish, creating a biomass density that can be up to 50 times greater than that of the open ocean. The economic value of this fishery support runs into the tens of billions of dollars annually, supporting the livelihoods of hundreds of millions of artisanal fishers worldwide. Furthermore, that lush greenery is a biodiversity hotspot of unimaginable scale. A calm bay in Southeast Asia, for instance, might host more distinct species in its mangrove forests and mudflats than the entire coastline of a continental nation, from specialized crabs that climb trees to mollusks that filter gallons of water a day. Each organism plays a role in maintaining the system's health. The calm is a result of this perfect balance. The water is clean because the mangroves and seagrasses trap sediments and absorb excess nutrients from land-based runoff, preventing the algal blooms that create dead zones. They are the kidneys of the coast, processing pollutants and maintaining water clarity. This entire system, the storm protection, the fisheries, the water purification, the carbon storage, is what economists call ecosystem services. Studies have attempted to put a dollar value on it, and the numbers are staggering. 1 hectare of mangrove forest can provide services worth between $33,000 and $57,000 per year. Compare that to the one-time payout of converting that hectare into shrimp ponds, which might yield $1,000 to $2,000 per year for a few years before disease and pollution render it useless. The calm bay is, therefore, a highly productive, economically critical, and dynamically stable ecosystem. Its tranquility is a sign of peak functionality, not emptiness. It is working overtime, performing miracles of engineering, chemistry, and biology that human technology cannot replicate at any cost. When we see such a place, we must train ourselves to see past the postcard serenity and recognize the furious, vital, and invaluable work happening in silence. It is a living infrastructure, more sophisticated than any city, and its survival is non-negotiable for our own. The tragedy begins when we mistake this profound productivity for passivity, this critical infrastructure for vacant land waiting for development. This fundamental misperception is the crack through which the entire system begins to drain, leading us to the next, more disturbing layer of the story. Now, hold that image of the perfect working bay in your mind, because we are about to shatter it with cold, hard, and terrifying data. The calm bay is under a siege so rapid and so total that it defies belief. Global mangrove coverage has declined by between 30% and 50% over the past half century. We are losing these ecosystems at a rate estimated to be 3 to 5 times faster than the loss of terrestrial forests. That means the very concept of a pristine, calm bay fringed with green is becoming an anachronism, a relic for history books. Let's follow the money and the pressure to understand why. The primary driver is aquaculture, specifically shrimp farming. To create a shrimp pond, developers bulldoze the mangrove forest, build earthen dikes, and flush the area with seawater. The economics seem tempting: high-value export product, quick returns. But the data reveals a catastrophic bargain. A study published in Science tracked shrimp farms in Thailand and found that the average operational lifespan of an intensive shrimp pond is only about 5 to 7 years before disease outbreaks, soil acidification, and water pollution make it untenable. The land is then abandoned as a barren, toxic wasteland incapable of supporting either aquaculture or the return of the native forest. The second major driver is coastal development and urbanization. As populations swell in coastal cities, the demand for land increases. The calm bay, seen as empty or swampy, is a prime target for land reclamation. Airports, hotels, residential complexes, and industrial ports are built directly on top of obliterated mangrove forests and filled in seabirds. The 2023 Global Mangrove Watch report highlighted that Southeast Asia, home to over a third of the world's mangroves, has seen a net loss of over 600 square kilometers in the last 2 decades, just from conversion to urban and industrial areas. This isn't just about losing trees, it's about dismantling the coastal defense system. When Hurricane Irma hit Florida, researchers found that shorelines behind intact mangroves suffered significantly less damage than those where mangroves had been removed. The loss translates directly into billions in additional disaster recovery costs paid by taxpayers. The third driver is pollution. Even bays that appear calm and green from a distance are often suffering from 1,000 cuts. Agricultural runoff, loaded with nitrogen and phosphorus from fertilizers, flows into the bay. In a healthy system, the mangroves and seagrasses absorb these nutrients. But when the system is weakened by loss of area, it becomes overwhelmed. This leads to eutrophication, algal blooms that block sunlight, killing the seagrasses. When the algae die, their decomposition sucks oxygen out of the water, creating hypoxic dead zones where fish and other marine life cannot survive. Data from the UN Environment Program indicates that the number of coastal dead zones has doubled every decade since the 1960s, and a significant proportion are linked to the degradation of filtering ecosystems like mangroves and seagrass meadows. Finally, there is climate change itself, a threat multiplier. Rising sea levels should, in theory, allow mangroves to migrate inland, but in most places that natural migration is blocked by seawalls, farms, and cities, a phenomenon called coastal squeeze. The mangroves are trapped between rising waters and human infrastructure, drowning in place. Furthermore, changing rainfall patterns can alter the salinity of bays, stressing the specially adapted trees. The cumulative impact is a system in free fall. The loss is not linear, it is exponential. As you lose mangrove area, you lose the nursery ground for fish, collapsing local fisheries. You lose the storm buffer, exposing communities to greater flooding. You lose the carbon sink, releasing stored carbon back into the atmosphere and accelerating climate change. You lose the water filter, leading to degraded coral reefs further offshore. Each loss weakens the system's resilience, making it more susceptible to the next blow. Scientists refer to this as a positive feedback loop of degradation. The calm bay doesn't just become less pretty, it becomes functionally dead and then it becomes a liability. The shocking truth is that this isn't a future prediction. It is current reality for thousands of bays worldwide. Satellite imagery analysis shows the fragmentation and erosion of these green fringes in real time. The serene screensaver is, in countless locations already alive. The crisis is invisible to us because it happens quietly in remote places, and because the media narrative focuses on dramatic icebergs calving, not the silent clearing of a muddy, mosquito-filled forest that, as we now know, is one of the most valuable pieces of real estate on Earth. This brings us to the pivotal question. If we understand the value and the scale of the loss, what is being done to stop it? The answer is a story of both heartbreaking failure and groundbreaking hope. For decades, the global response to the loss of coastal ecosystems like our calm bay has been a patchwork of well-intentioned but often catastrophic failures, followed more recently by a surge of brilliant, community-driven innovation that offers a real way out. The first and most infamous failure has been the approach of large-scale, top-down mangrove planting campaigns. Governments and large NGOs, under public pressure to do something green, have often launched initiatives to plant millions of mangrove seedlings. The photo ops are fantastic. Rows of politicians and volunteers sticking little green shoots into the mud. The outcomes, however, have been dismal. Survival rates for these mass plantings are frequently below 20%, and sometimes as low as 10%. Why? Because they often ignore fundamental ecological science. Mangroves are not just trees. They are complex, self-organizing ecosystems that thrive in specific tidal zones with specific hydrological conditions. Planting a single species in straight lines on a mudflat that is too deep, too saline, or has the wrong sediment type is a recipe for mass death. A comprehensive review in the journal Biological Conservation concluded that many such projects have wasted millions of dollars, created ghost forests of dead seedlings, and worse, have sometimes damaged the very environments they aim to restore by disrupting natural sediment flows. The second failed solution has been the creation of protected areas on paper without the resources or community buy-in for enforcement. A bay may be declared a marine protected area or a biosphere reserve, but if the local community whose livelihood depends on it is not involved, and if there are no patrols or alternative incomes provided, the designation is meaningless. Illegal logging for charcoal, poaching of wildlife, and encroachment for aquaculture continue unabated. Data from conservation NGOs shows that paper parks can cover vast areas of the map in green, offering a false sense of security while the actual ecosystems degrade out of sight. However, from the ashes of these failures, a new, powerfully effective model has emerged, and it is turning the tide in specific, hopeful locations. This model is called Community-Based Ecological Mangrove Restoration, or CBMR. Its principle is elegantly simple. You don't plant a mangrove forest, you allow it to grow back by fixing the broken conditions that prevented its natural recovery in the first place. The process starts not with seedlings, but with hydrology. Experts and local communities work together to map the original tidal creeks and water flows that have been blocked by roads, dikes, or debris. They then use simple, low-tech methods to restore the natural hydrology digging channels, removing barriers, reconnecting the bay with its historical floodplain. Once the water flows correctly, the natural seed banks still present in the mud, the propagules from nearby healthy trees germinate and establish themselves in the ideal zones where they are adapted to survive. The result is not a monoculture plantation, but a diverse, resilient, self-sustaining forest that closely mimics the original. The data from successful CBMR projects is compelling. In Thailand, projects using these principles have achieved mangrove recovery with over 80% survival rates, at a fraction of the cost of failed planting programs. In Indonesia, one of the world's most ambitious restoration projects in West Java, has successfully restored hundreds of hectares by working hand-in-hand with villages, turning former abandoned shrimp ponds back into productive, fish-rich forests. The second pillar of New Hope is the direct economic valuation and payment for ecosystem services, PES. Pioneering projects are now quantifying the carbon stored in mangrove soils, known as blue carbon, and selling verified carbon credits on international markets. The revenue from these credits flows directly back to the local communities who are protecting and restoring the forests. In Kenya and Madagascar, communities are earning sustainable income from blue carbon projects, providing a tangible financial incentive to protect the mangroves that far outweighs the short-term gain from cutting them down. Similarly, ecotourism that is genuinely managed by communities offers another revenue stream. Visitors don't just come to see a calm bay, they come to see a functioning, restored ecosystem, to learn about its importance and to contribute directly to its guardians. This model flips the script. Instead of seeing the lush greenery as an obstacle to development, communities begin to see it as their most valuable asset. The calm bay becomes an economic engine through its very existence, not through its destruction. Technology also playing a role. Drones are used to map restoration sites and monitor growth. Environmental DNA, EDNA, sampling of the water, can track the return of fish and invertebrate biodiversity without destructive trawling. Satellite monitoring by platforms like Global Mangrove Watch provides transparent, real-time data on forest cover, holding governments and corporations accountable. The synthesis of ancient ecological knowledge, community stewardship, modern science, and innovative finance is creating a powerful toolkit for resurrection. It proves that the damage is not irreversible, but the solution requires humility, listening to the ecosystem and the people who depend on it, rather than imposing a quick, photogenic fix. The calm bay can be healed, and in being healed, it can heal us. But this leads to the most critical part of all, your role in this story. You are not a passive viewer of this crisis or its solution. You are a key participant in a global economic system that is driving the loss, and you have the power to help drive the recovery. You might be sitting thousands of miles from any coastline, thinking that the fate of a calm, green bay has nothing to do with you. That is the most dangerous illusion of our interconnected world. Through the strands of global trade, consumer choice, and digital influence, you are intimately and directly connected to the survival or destruction of these ecosystems every single day. Let's trace the threads. First, the seafood on your plate. The global shrimp industry, a primary driver of mangrove deforestation, is fueled by international demand. That all-you-can-eat shrimp buffet, the frozen shrimp in your supermarket, the shrimp in your paella, a significant portion comes from tropical aquaculture ponds that were once vibrant mangrove forests. A 2021 supply chain investigation by the Environmental Justice Foundation linked major European and North American retailers to shrimp farms operating illegally in cleared mangrove areas in Southeast Asia. When you buy uncertified, cheap shrimp, there is a high probability you are consuming a product of ecological destruction. The same applies to certain farmed fish like salmon, which often uses fish meal derived from wild-caught species, some of which depend on mangrove nurseries. Your consumer power is a direct economic signal. Second, the goods you buy. Coastal land cleared of mangroves is often used for palm oil plantations, rice paddies, or for building industrial ports that handle the flow of consumer goods from your smartphone to your furniture. The demand for cheap, fast-ship products encourages port expansions and logistics hubs that obliterate coastal buffers. Your online shopping habits, with an expectation of 2-day delivery, contribute to a logistics network that prizes efficiency over ecology, often at the coastal frontier. Third, the carbon footprint of your lifestyle. Every ton of carbon dioxide you emit through travel, home energy use, and consumption contributes to climate change. which in turn drives sea level rise and the coastal squeeze that drowns remaining mangroves. Your personal emissions are literally helping to submerge these ecosystems. But the most powerful thread of all in the 21st century is your attention and your voice. The calm bay is dying in silence because its story is not told in a compelling, data-driven, visceral way on mainstream platforms. Algorithms feed to us content that confirms our biases or entertains us, not content that reveals inconvenient, systemic truths. By choosing to watch this video, to seek out this information, you are fighting that algorithm. You are creating demand for content that matters. Your engagement likes, comments, shares tells the platform that this topic is vital, pushing it to a wider audience. You are not just a viewer, you are a broadcaster and a signal amplifier. Furthermore, your voice as a citizen and investor matters. Do you know where your bank invests its money? Major financial institutions have been found to fund large-scale coastal development projects and aquaculture operations linked to mangrove destruction. By asking questions, switching to banks with strong environmental policies, or supporting green investment funds, you can shift capital flows. Your vote and the pressure you put on political representatives to support international agreements protecting coastal ecosystems and to legislate against the import of commodities linked to deforestation creates political will. The data shows that public pressure works. Campaigns against palm oil linked to deforestation led to corporate neo-deforestation pledges. The same model can and must be applied to blue ecosystems. Imagine a mangrove safe certification for shrimp and other coastal products driven by consumer demand. Imagine tourism operators competing not just on price, but on a verified contribution to mangrove restoration. This is not a fantasy. It is an emerging market reality that you can help accelerate. Finally, your ability to support directly is unprecedented. Crowdfunding platforms allow you to donate $20 to a community-led mangrove restoration project in the Philippines or Kenya, and you can see the trees planted and monitored via satellite. You can become a digital advocate using your social media to share stories of successful restoration, tagging brands and policymakers. You can reduce your seafood consumption or insist on certifications like the Marine Stewardship Council or Aquaculture Stewardship Council that have stricter, though not perfect, environmental standards. The point is, the globalized economy that connects you to the destruction also connects you to the solution. You are a node in the network. The food you choose, the products you buy, the content you engage with, the money you save, and the votes you cast are all signals that travel through that network, influencing corporate boardrooms, government policies, and on-the-ground realities in distant bays. The tragedy of the calm bay is a tragedy of disconnection. We don't see our role in it. The hope lies in reforging that connection with knowledge and intentionality. You have more power to protect that single, serene, life-giving image than you ever imagined. And this brings us to the final, most urgent call. So here's what you must do right now in this moment. First, make this knowledge permanent. Do not let this video be something you watch and forget. Hit the like button right now. That's your first signal that this matters. Subscribe to this channel because this is just the beginning. We will dive deeper into specific solutions, expose more hidden connections, and profile the heroes saving our planet one bay at a time. Your subscription builds a community dedicated to actionable intelligence, not just doom scrolling. Second, share this video. Share it on every platform you use. Send it to the friend who loves seafood, to the family member who invests, to the colleague who cares about travel. Put it in your group chats. The single most effective thing you can do is break the silence. Make the invisible crisis visible in your own network. Third, take one tangible action this week. Audit your seafood consumption. Research your bank's investment policy. Find and support one legitimate, community-led mangrove restoration organization. I will link several verified ones in the description below. Choose one and act. Finally, and most importantly, comment below. Tell me what shocked you the most. What action will you take? Or suggest the next hidden ecosystem we should expose? Your comment fuels the algorithm, making this video reach millions more, and it creates a living database of commitment and ideas. That calm bay, with all its life, its protection, and its beauty, is hanging in the balance. Its survival is not guaranteed by distant experts or governments alone. It is guaranteed by a global wave of informed, connected individuals who decide that their choices matter. That wave starts with you right here, right now. Don't just be a viewer, be a participant, be a restorer. The time for passive observation is over. Click like, subscribe, share, act, and comment. Let's build a future where the calm bay isn't a fading memory, but a growing, thriving, expanding reality. I'm counting on you. Let's begin.